Podcast Media Podcast Network.
You want to know something? The gay Trump supporters have been very silent these past few days. I wonder why. Good evening, demons and demonesses. Kwame Wakan here. I had to bring out the horns for this one because, number one, it's been a while, and number two, I have quite a bit to say about all this. You see, for quite some time, we've heard rhetoric from, right-wing religious conservatives that, no, we're not going to touch gay marriage, or, this administration isn't going to go about, trying to roll back gay marriage, or they're only going to go after the trans people and not the gay people. And then you have the LGBT movement and all that other crazy nonsense. They're all nuts. Well, if you're familiar with the term leopards eating faces, let's just say all these gay people that voted in these religious conservatives are about to have their faces feast upon. They're going to be the main course. Now, about 10 years ago, you remember that case that happened, I think I forget what state it was in, but I think it was in the state of Kentucky. And she was one of these county clerks that refused to give, a marriage license to, gay couples. She spent some time in jail because of that. Many Republican politicians came to her defense, including, Governor Mike Huckabee, Ted Cruz, and many others, actually. Also, I want to bring up something. I want to show you guys my favorite picture of Kim Davis. Here it is right on the screen. I'm pretty sure this picture sums up how we all feel about Kim Davis at this moment. And for those claiming, Kwame, I think that's Photoshop, that's not real. Well, here's the same picture from a different angle. Yes, this photo is very much real. Sometimes I think the jokes just write themselves. But either way, Kim Davis, you would think 10 years she would have gotten over it. Nah, she's out for blood. She wants revenge. And that should tell you something, this person really hates queer people that much that she's able to hold on to that hatred for 10 years. And now she's ready to strike. So I have a couple videos I want to show you, and let's just get into it.
Former Rowan County Clerk Kim Davis is asking the U.S. Supreme Court to overturn the landmark Obergefell marriage ruling. Davis made national headlines nearly a decade ago for refusing to issue same-sex marriage licenses, defying a court order and spending time in jail for contempt. Davis cited her religious beliefs, saying her faith prevented her from what she considered an endorsement of same-sex marriage. Now the Liberty Counsel, representing Davis, is asking the High Court to reverse both the judgment against her and the Obergefell decision itself.
Well, the Supreme Court is being asked to weigh in on a push to overturn same-sex marriage rights. The case is the first that explicitly asked the court to reverse its landmark 2015 decision that legalized same-sex marriage nationwide. The appeal was filed by Kim Davis. She's the former Kentucky County Clerk who was jailed after refusing to issue marriage licenses to gay couples. The court is expected to consider her petition this fall.
10 years after the Supreme Court ruled in favor of same-sex marriage across the United States, it could now be overturned. Senior Washington correspondent Devin Dwyer is on the story for us. All right, give us the deal, Devin. Who is actually asking the justices to overturn this?
Well, in recent years, Kira, we've been waiting for a case like this as some of the sentiment in the country has started to shift a little bit, softened rather, against same-sex marriage. There's been a lot of talk about whether the justices would get a chance to reconsider the case. And as you said there, they are getting that opportunity next month. We've learned that Kim Davis, she's that Kentucky clerk from back in 2015 that was at the center of international controversy when she refused to issue marriage licenses to a gay couple in Kentucky in defense defiance of the Supreme Court. She spent 6 days in jail. She lost a defamation suit. She had to pay $100,000 in damages, $260,000 in legal fees. That's what she's appealing to the Supreme Court, but it's the first time, Kira, that anyone has technically asked the justices explicitly to overturn Obergefell v. Hodges, which was that landmark ruling. And she does just that. Her counsel in this petition, which was filed last week, says that decision was egregiously wrong. And if that sounds familiar, that's the same type of argument that was made by opponents of abortion when they sought to overturn Roe versus Wade just a few years ago. So a lot of eyes on this petition. It's unclear whether the court will take it up, but certainly a lot on the line.
Well, is there any indication that justices will consider hearing arguments?
A lot of the legal experts I've talked to say there's no chance the Supreme Court will want to wade into this. But, you know, the climate that we're in right now, anything can happen. Certainly, we are in the midst of a campaign against same-sex marriages across the country. At least 9 states so far have either passed legislation seeking to end those rights or specifically asked the Supreme Court, send resolutions to the Supreme Court asking them to revisit. You saw the Southern Baptist Convention, the nation's largest Protestant Christian group, just last month. They voted to make overturning Obergefell a top priority. So there's a renewed effort by activists in this space to try to get the attention of the Supreme Court. And a lot of them, Kira, are pointing to comments by Justice Clarence Thomas, the senior conservative, who after the Dobbs decision, the one that overturned abortion rights in this country, he said in his opinion that he thinks it's time to take a look again at marriage rights. So anything can happen. It's on the table, but most legal experts think that the chances are less likely than not, Kira.
Got it. Devin Dwyer, thank you.
You bet.
You know, just when you thought that, you know, religious conservatives couldn't get any worse, you know, here they really are. And like I said, for those people that never took me seriously when I was speaking about all this stuff, now you realize Kwame wasn't so crazy, was he? You know, I always found it funny how you have this exact same group of people that claim that queer people are pushing their identities onto everyone else. Yet they're the ones that want the entire country to believe in their little fairy tale. Like, what's up with all this? Like, aren't you like the pot calling the kettle black? Like, but apart from all that, do I think that this is going to pass? Honestly, you never really know at this point. You know, this administration is full of surprises. Like I said in my last video, if you can think of the most crazy, insane idea, guarantee you the religious conservatives are going to try and get it through. And we already have a bunch of them on the Supreme Court. Well, I'm already looking at Clarence Thomas. Now, do I think, you know, Amy Coney Barrett or Neil Gorsuch or Brett Kavanaugh? I don't really know much about them. That, you know, I know Amy Coney Barrett, you know, is kind of, you know, a crazy religious person, you know, on its own. Clarence Thomas, we already know, dead giveaway. He's like the most right-wing of the right-wingers on that court. Like, which is ironic, you know, the black guy being the most right-wing. So it's almost like he's overcompensating for something. You know, despite, you know, all the, you know, crazy stories and rhetoric that you hear about, you know, the LGBTQ community, still in all, in this late date, the majority of the country still supports gay marriage. So I guess that's a good thing, although the numbers did go down throughout Although the numbers have went down throughout the past couple of years. I don't know what... And my only theory behind that is, you know, this massive propaganda push that, you know, we're seeing about all this. With all these, you know, right-wing podcasters, you know, constantly, you know, taking every moment out of every hour of the day to, you know, berate and attack the LGBT community. And the fact that, you know, you have all these million-dollar corporations spending vast amounts of money on ad revenue to push these videos out and get them to show through the algorithm. It's really no surprise that, you know, when you spend that much money trying to push something, that, you know, it changes the opinions on, you know, people that would otherwise wouldn't even give a rat's ass about it. You know, they constantly see, I mean, and that's the funny thing is, you know, I consider myself pro-LGBT, and for some weird reason, I keep getting anti-LGBT shit coming down my timeline. I'm like, what are you talking about all this? Like that lad, Brass and Grey or something like that. He's like this MAGA Christian rapper, and he always talks about gay, which is kind of weird, you think, a Christian rapper would talk about, Jesus and the Bible and the Lord, but all he does is talk about gay sex. So it kind of makes me wonder, even the queerest of queer musicians that I know, and believe me, I know a lot, they don't even have this much lyrical content about gay sex as much as Bryce and Gray. Honestly, I think this lad just put an on his last name simply because he didn't want to out himself. Now, if this does pass and they do overturn Obergefell versus Hodges, are there ways to get around these laws? Well, good news is yes. Bad news is that, it's a very long and tiring process. You see, in many of these red states, once this passes and Obergefell gets overturned, immediately it will become outlawed in every red state. Now, however, in order to get around this, if you live in a red state and you drive or fly to a blue state and get married in that state, the red states have to legally recognize that marriage. I think this is because of the Respect for Marriage Act, if I'm not mistaken. Also, if you were married prior to, Obergefell versus Hodges overturning, that marriage will be grandfathered in. But even so, to go through all that work just to get married, I think it's just absolutely ludicrous. If a gay person wants to get married, then, just let them get married. If your church or, your denomination doesn't agree with it, then that church and that pastor can just say no, and they can go to a different church. There's many, gay-friendly churches and gay-friendly religious institutions out there. But who said that it had to be a religious ceremony? Like, what if somebody just wants to have a secular marriage? Like, why should that even matter? So, this is a clear violation of people's religious liberty. When one religion is dictating the law of the land all over the place, or even in these specific red states. But we have, about a couple months left before, this actually does reach the Supreme Court. So, whichever way it goes, buckle up, because believe it or not, these people will never quit. If this woman waited 10 years, I guarantee you she can wait a few more years, even if the Supreme Court does decide not to hear this. But either way, these are some really dark times that we're living in right now. Alright, demons and demonesses, you let me know what you think. I mean, do you think that the Supreme Court is going to take this case? Do you think that, gay marriage will be, outlawed in the United States again? I really hope I don't have to see that day coming. Alright, you guys stay safe, stay metal, hail Satan, and have a gay day.